Pastor Doug.
Hi Beth, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Today we're here to talk about the Good Samaritan.
One of the better known Bible stories.
Yeah.
Mainly because Good Samaritan just seems to be a term we've grabbed onto in society. We have Good Samaritan laws.
Yep.
If you see someone doing something good, you often might refer to them as, oh, what a Good Samaritan.
Yeah.
There's Good Samaritan homes, even Good Samaritan campsites, right?
Yeah.
Good Sam campsite.
The Good Sam Club. Yeah. So what is the Good Samaritan? Where does it come from? And that's what we're here to talk about today. So this story is found in the New Testament, in the Bible, in the book of Luke chapter 10, verses 25 to 37. And basically, Jesus gets asked a question and answers. The question is,
what must I do?
Yeah, to inherit eternal life.
Yeah.
And it's love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your strength, your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's commonly referred to the greatest commandments, which happens to be our memory verse too.
Yeah, good, good.
And Jesus says, yeah, that's right. Well, then the next question comes, well, who's your neighbor?
Who's my neighbor? Yeah, it says the teacher of the law that's asking the questions wanted to be justified and asked that question. Who? Well, then, because he probably knew that he wasn't fulfilling, the broad definition of what Jesus would call a neighbor. So he asked, "Who's my neighbor?" And the answer is the story of the Good Samaritan.
So we have a fellow going from Jerusalem to Jericho, which happened to be down quite
steep
hill,
trail, downhill, about anywhere from 15 to 20 miles. I've seen different calculations, but it drops in elevation quite a bit. Jerusalem, of course, is where the temple is, and Jericho was sort of a bedroom community to Jerusalem, but it was a dangerous road. When Jesus says a man is traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho, people would know that road and know. In fact, I think some places it's referred to as sort of the way of blood, because oftentimes thieves hid around the twists and turns and bends, and there was, no. It was an unsafe road to be traveling on. But so this man is attacked
by robbers, right? Left half dead.
Yeah.
And a priest and a Levite end up coming by and looking at him and keep going on their way.
Yeah, move to the other side of the road, and then finally a Samaritan comes along and sees the man, goes over, binds his wounds, puts him on his donkey, and then brings him to a local inn where he says, "Please take care of this man. I'll come back later. If there's any more charges, I'll gladly pay it."
And then the question gets asked, and who do you think is the neighbor?
Jesus is always good at answering questions with questions and making us think for ourselves. So he asked the teacher of the law, "Well, who do you think the neighbor is in this story?" And of course the teacher of the law, they so hated the Samaritans, he couldn't even get himself to say the Samaritan, but he said the one who helped,
who showed mercy. Yeah.
So
who are these people? This story is kind of taking place. Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem. The Transfiguration is taking place. So we're on our way into Holy Week.
Yeah.
If you're framing it in
the church year.
In the church year. Yeah. And so who are these priests and Levites?
Well, the priests and Levites were really all of the tribe of Levi, but the priests were the ones that were direct descendants of Moses and Aaron. And so they were the ones, they were kind of the cream of the crop, of the priestly order of the tribe of Levi. So they were the ones that led prayers and worship and read from the Holy Scriptures, and so they were, and they were really the ruling class, the elite of of the Israelite people. The Levites were others from the tribe of Levi, but weren't direct descendants necessarily from Moses and Aaron. And so they were the acolytes, very important. The altar guild, the choir. I mean, they sort of ran the church, did all the other ministries that the actual priests themselves were. They served the priests. So they were both sort of, well, they weren't sort of, they were the religious elite. And in Numbers in the Old Testament, the 18th chapter, you can kind of read about who these Levites were and priests were. But they were the hoity-toity. I guess I think that's Hebrew. No, it's not. But anyway, so one of the things is that the priests and Levites, those of the tribe of Levi that were responsible for taking care of the temple, they had very strict purity laws. And if a priest or the Levite not only touched but even got near this person who may or may not have been dead by the side of the road, they would become ritually unclean if the person was dead, and that would, if they became unclean, they would be unable to perform their duties at the temple. They would have to go. I mean, there's a whole ritual that they'd have to go through. They'd have to kill a cow and sacrifice it and burn it to ashes and stand by the East Gate, I think, and call themselves unclean for a week or two. And I mean, it was a big deal to become unclean and to try to regain your status as a priest or a Levite, a servant of the temple. So you can see why these guys were a little cautious, but and I think that's where the real point of the story comes in, is that Jesus really calls us to sometimes reach out even beyond our own fears and outside of our comfort zone to help others, to be a good neighbor.
So the Samaritan is interesting. I found some wording in our background that I really liked on him. Maybe I'll find it in a minute. I don't know where it is right now.
Well, Samaritans were actually, the Samaritan people and the Israelite people were all one and the same. You know, they're one of the 12 tribes of Israel. In 700 BC, the Syrians, the Assyrian Empire, conquered the Israelite people. I'm going to get my notes too, make sure I don't give wrong information. But the Assyrian Empire conquered the northern kingdom of the Israelite people and the tribes, and took a lot of them off into captivity, but then many of them stayed in the Gentile people. The Assyrians came and lived among them, and many of the Israelite people there not only intermarried with some of the Gentile people, but also started to worship some of their idols and gods. And so so while they still held on to some of their beliefs as Israelite people, they also sort of became intertwined with the Gentiles and some of their idol worship. So that happened in the North Kingdom. In the South Kingdom, 100 years later, at 600 BC, the Israelite people to the south were overtaken by Babylon, but they kept themselves more pure. They didn't intermarry outside of the Israelite people, outside of their clans, and they just said, there's only one God, and they didn't worship idols. So then, like some 500 years later, when they came back together, you had this southern kingdom of Israelite people that were pure and holy because they didn't worship idols and they didn't intermarry, and they just really looked at these Samaritans, that they called them, the Samaritan people, the Samaritan Israelites, as just, as an abomination. I mean, they turned against God and they intermarried, and they were just unpure, unclean, They didn't want anything to do with him. As we heard in the story, they didn't even want to say the word Samaritan, you know.
Yeah, there's strong antagonism, and Samaritans are referred to, like you hear that in several places.
Yeah.
In the Bible.
Yeah, the woman at the well out of Samaria, Samaritan woman. The 10 lepers that are cured, the one that comes back as a Samaritan and thanks Jesus. I mean, yeah, that was basically what Jesus was saying, using a Samaritan as the hero, is that the most vile person you could think of, that's the one that did the right thing.
Yeah. So again, he's shattering boundaries.
Yeah. I think, to me it says, no matter who society might say you are, or, you know, how you might be shunned or put into a second-class status or whatever it might be, you know, you're still a child of God. And Jesus still calls you and even uses you as an example for what it means to be a neighbor and a child of God and a brother and sister in Christ.
So the way that Jesus ends this parable is go and do likewise.
Go and do likewise.
So even though the priest and the Levite probably knew in their heart what they should do, the Samaritan is the one that actually does it. He does the right thing. Yeah. So as we're working with this story and children, that's one of the things that we're going to be doing. Is, taking a look at, well, who are our neighbors? Is it just the people in our family, the people next door to us, or is it a bigger picture?
People that come to our church, the people we like, you know. No, there's a bigger, broader.
Yeah, and how do you practice showing love to your neighbor, and especially as children, in safe ways? How do we do that? So it'll be good.
Yeah. So what are some of the
things we're doing?
Yeah. I want to hear.
Yep. Well, we're going to be learning about agencies near and far. So we'll be exploring Habitat for Humanity, and we'll actually be building bird houses, and we're working to help build a playground for a local habitat build. And then working with other local agencies, too, to provide first aid kits for families.
Wonderful.
We'll be using some drama and music and storytelling to really help cement the story and own that story. So when kids are out in the world, or we're out in the world, we really know what Good Samaritan means, or when you're hearing people talk about that, or to be able to tell the story in your own words. And then exploring global health ministries too. The Lutheran Church does a great job with global health, and so maybe ripping sheets into bandages and all kinds of
kits together. Those kinds
all
of
kinds
things.
of
Wonderful.
All kinds of things. And then kind of our overall thing that we're looking at is all of us are on this journey through our lives, and throughout our lives we'll encounter different kinds of people, and just know that that's okay, and that how to show that love to everyone.
Yeah. Good. Well, you always have wonderful creative ways to continue to teach our kids and young adults on their journey of faith, and I really appreciate that. So
it's fun.
It's going to be a fun Bible study and study of the Good Samaritan story.
Yep. Thank you, Pastor Doug.
Thank you, Beth.
We'll see you in church.
See you in church and Sunday school and during the week and all